We're taking all the best old school wisdom and blending it with the top new school methods to bring you the optimal coaching strategies. This is the 80-20 Baseball Podcast with Coach Bo.
Welcome all you great coaches. Welcome to the 80-20 Baseball Get Together. Always great to be here for our weekly chat. Our goal here, as always, is to be able to walk out on the field as coaches, to be able to walk into the batting cage, out onto the field, into a practice environment, feeling more confident, having true confidence in what we're about to coach and how to go about it. We are not trying to coach 1,000 things. We are trying to coach the main things really well. And that's going to take care of 80 or 90%, hence the 80-20 rule, 80-20 baseball. I always like to bounce back to this. We do believe 80-20 baseball, 80-20 principle is not one, it's not an exact ratio. And if you've studied it, and if you haven't, I highly recommend you go study the 80-20 principle. This is a game changer for life, for your business, for your career, for your family, for your relationships. This is a big deal, the 80-20 principle. It's not an exact ratio. It never has been. It never was meant to be portrayed as an exact ratio where 20% of what you put in your inputs yield 80% of your outputs. But it's an approximation and it holds true for most things. And in baseball, 20% of our players are going to need about 80% of our corrections in terms of rules, in terms of discipline, not necessarily technique and skill. I think that's a little more even across the board with all things considered, all facets of the game considered. But about 20% of our players are going to get about 80% of our disciplinary action. It's the same. It's in schools. You see it in schools. I'm sure 80% of the problems, 80% of the issues are caused by 20% of the kids, approximately. It's an approximation, that 80-20 rule. I wanted to throw out a few examples as we get into this. The 80-20 rule is ever present. Speaking of which, Coach Ryan Brucker will be doing an interview. I'll be interviewing him next week, and it's set to go live on this podcast in a couple weeks. I shouldn't say live. I'm expected to roll that interview out in a couple weeks. Coach Ryan Brucker is all about the 80-20 principle in terms of really focusing heavy on those 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 things that really drive and move the needle, that drive the success of his program. He's a very successful baseball coach in Southern California. He played in the College World Series. He played multiple sports growing up. Coach Ryan Brucker has, I believe Ryan's got 4 kids, so he's got in that youth sports. He's always doing, he's really heavily involved in the youth sports right now. I'm excited because he hits all the areas. He played high-level college baseball. He coaches and has a great program that he runs, and then he understands that youth baseball component, that youth sports, the mindset. Just a really great coach. I'm really excited to have Coach Ryan Brucker on in a couple weeks, so I'm going to do that interview next week. In the summertime, we do get into interviews, and so I bring in more interviews in the summer. I'll sprinkle some in throughout the year. If somebody reaches out and I think there's something really good there to share, I'll bring it on. It doesn't have to be right in the middle of the summer, but during the summer, I like to bring in these high quality interviews. Coach Ryan Brucker's my first one. I reached out to him and I was like, hey, I hope he says yes. Hope he can get the time. And I know he's super busy and he's going to make it happen. So I'm fired up because it's gold right there, what he's going to share with us. So you're not going to want to miss that. All right, let's get into today's episode here. Let's talk about some things. Let's get better as coaches. Let's get a clear understanding of how to be a great coach. I saw this on Facebook. I don't do the Facebook except for the baseball coaching. I like the coaching groups that are on there. I do. And I dive into those and I like to see where the pain points are. I like to learn things from coaches. I like to see the different angles that different coaches and everybody looks at the same issue or the same problem or trying to fix the same thing, the same skill, the swing. And there's the different takes, the different looks. I do like to get into that Facebook group, baseball environment. And I did find Worldwide Baseball Prospects. Not sure who these people are, but they do post a lot in this one group. And interestingly enough, they posted 2 things back to back. And one of them I couldn't agree more with, and one of them I couldn't disagree more with. And when I say disagree, I'll explain it out. I'm not just going to say I disagree. I'll explain it, and I'll try to give that deductive reasoning and logic behind it. And we'll break that down right now. The first one I saw was 5U to 10U Youth Baseball Awards replacing the old ones. So I got this again this is from Worldwide Baseball Prospects. Posted this on Facebook. Number 1, best team player. Number 2, best attitude. Number 3, best effort. Number 4, consistent hustle. Number 5, most encouraging. I love this. This is awesome. And when I read through the comments and some of the follow-up on this post, there were some great ideas. We got 12 players. Okay, be creative. Come up with 12 awards. The challenge is making sure you don't water it down so much or it starts to get silly or it's not genuine. You want to have some genuine award that really does actually have a meaning behind it. The nice thing is, once you have these awards, you can use them from year to year. Best team player, best attitude, those will last until the end of time. Best effort, consistent hustle, most encouraging. I really like this idea of replacing the older awards. In fact, if I was a high school coach or a college coach, these are the awards I would get rather than best pitcher or best hitter or best infielder. That's what I would do this, because this will take care of all that. These awards hit on the foundation of a great team. I love this idea, and some of you are already using this. This isn't something new. I just saw it and I wanted to share it out. I thought it was really great. And I liked the comment. Somebody said, hey, just you have 12 players, you have 11 players, 13 players. Come up with 13 awards. Be creative. Sit down as a group, as a coaching staff or the parents, ask around, send a group message and get input. And then each player gets something that is not necessarily tied to skill or scoreboard success, but tied to those fundamental principles of being a better human, being a better person. So it was good to see that. I know, again, this isn't anything new to the sports community, these types of awards, but I think if we can make this the main set of awards, that would be cool. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see more of it built around best attitude, best effort, consistent hustle, most encouraging, best team player, and there's quite a few other examples that you could have. You could do most organized, most on time, best at backing up on defense, best humor. Notice how I said best humor, not team clown. I don't like that class clown, but team humor, and we can go on and on with these. So these awards I'd like to see as we finish up a lot of the baseball season, and a lot of you are getting into some of that in the northern states where when weather's a little colder, you're getting into your season. Keep these in mind as you move forward. And the nice thing is, once you have these, you can use them from season to season. You can adjust them as needed, but you can have the template. These are the awards that are going to be given out to the players. The key here is to keep it genuine and to keep the award meaningful, to use meaningful awards. I think that's really important. Now, Worldwide Baseball Prospects put out that. I really like that reminder of using those types of awards. They also put out something here that I completely disagree with, and this was a post on Facebook. They said pros aren't married, so professionals aren't married to the result. Instead, they are married to the process. We've talked about this at length. On the surface, it sounds good, but if you just think about it for even 10 or 15 seconds, you're going to see the massive flaw in this. For example, if pros aren't married to the result, but the people that are cutting their checks, now we're talking about professional game, if the organizations that are keeping or giving them a job or keeping them on the roster or promoting them, it's all about results insofar as they're not just a terrible team player, a completely bad seed. It's all about results. It's about winning. It's about results. So if pro players aren't married to the results, but the people that employ them are, there's a huge disconnect. Instead, they are married to the process is the second part. I don't agree with this, and I talked about this, and I think this is something that can help in every area of life. We should not be married to the process. If you're married, the word married is, a lot of people, most people see married as this is something that will be forever. This is something that we won't change. Okay, I get it. Yeah, I get divorce rates and everything. I get that. But my point is, when you say you're married, it's basically kind of a statement of long term, forever, or this is definitely not something that breaks off very easily. You should not have that attitude towards your process. In fact, if the practice that you are running this year looks identical or very similar to the practices you were running 2 years ago, maybe even last year, and definitely 3 years ago, you are not doing what you need to do as a coach. You are not moving forward. You are not growing. You are not learning. You are not progressing, because there's always something that can continually get better, definitely from season to season. Maybe not practice to practice or game to game or month to month. Sometimes that's hard to incorporate big adjustments, changes in the middle of a season, nor is it advantageous, but over the course of a couple years, it should look a lot different. Maybe not a lot different in every single area, but in many areas of your coaching, it should look different. Your practices should not look the same, and that cannot coexist with the mindset of being married to the process. We should be married to the result that we want. We should, in other words, the goal that we want as a coach, we should be married to the goal that we want. We want our players to be better human beings at the end of the season. We want them to be better people. We want them to be more confident players. We want them to be more disciplined players. We want them to be a higher level of hustle type of player. We want them to be better teammates on the skill level and the production level in terms of the scoreboard. We would like them to be producing more runs by the end of the season. We would like them as a pitcher to be giving up fewer runs by the end of the season. We would like them to be walking fewer hitters. We would like them on offense to be driving the ball as a hitter, driving the ball a little more consistently. On defense, we would like them to be making more consistent throws across the diamond by the end of the year. So we want better throws, better at-bats, better pitching, better base running. We want them to be better people, better teammates. We want their level of hustle to be higher at the end of the season. We want them to have more discipline, more accountability, more responsibility. We should be married to the results that we want. We should be married to those results because those results are the results that we'll always want. Produce more runs, give up fewer runs, make fewer errors, drive the ball better, more consistently, swing at better pitches as we move forward in our baseball playing career through the season, have less ground balls go through our legs, better defense, make more outs consistently, be a better teammate. We want to be married to these results, these desired results. But we don't want to necessarily be married to the process because the process of getting there may vary, it may change, it will adjust, it will improve. If you've been coaching a long time, it's probably going to change less. It's probably going to be adjusted and improved a little bit less, more incrementally. If you are new to coaching, you will see massive shifts. I shared with you, I used to teach inner city Compton, Watts kids, North Long Beach kids. In fact, I was talking to one of my mentors last night. I spent about an hour on the phone. He gave me a buzz. He grew up in Compton. His name's Lamar. He gave me a buzz, and he's an athletic director, and he's hiring coaches, and he's talking about building these programs, and he's in charge of this pretty big athletic department over at that school. And I remember when I first started working with him years ago, this would have been about 15 years ago. I remember when I first got out there, it was not good. It was not pretty. I had a good idea how I wanted to treat the kids and had a good idea of understanding exercise and working and setting up drills and things like that. But that was about it. There was just so much to learn. I remember by my third year teaching at that school, I remember Lamar and a couple of the other teachers saying, "Hey, your class looks way different. Like, it looks markedly different." I mean, they said, one of them said, "I don't even recognize your class and how you teach your kids now. It had improved." And they were saying this in a good way. Well, over the course of a couple years, I really got better a lot, very fast. Thankfully, they were great mentors. I also I knew that I needed to get X, Y, and Z result. I didn't know how to get there, but I started testing things. I started testing some of the processes, started testing those out, and I found stuff that really worked. But early on, and for you coaches, early on, there should be a big difference between 1 year to the next year. As an early coach, a first year coach, a second year coach, there should be some big differences between how your practices look, how your coaching style looks, definitely how you run your practices and your drills and things like that. They should look a lot better, more efficient, more effective. Your team should be more disciplined in healthy and good ways. There should be definite differences, and you can't have these if you're married to the process, because if you're married to that process and you're just going to roll out there with that same process until you stop coaching. That's what I got out of this. I think this is a big mistake when we say this a lot. I see it a lot, and I think it's just regurgitated a lot. And we should be married to the desired result. That shouldn't change. We should want to be high hustle players, good teammates, score more runs, give up as fewer runs as possible, make good plays on defense, hustle. Those things we should be married to, those results that we want. We want that outcome. How we get there, the path we take, the process is going to evolve. And I think that's important that we keep that in mind. All right, let's pivot now into a second part here on this podcast, the pros and cons of travel ball. Now, I will not dive too deep in this episode into this. This actually was added just kind of towards the end here in the last couple of days. I added this to the episode. I was talking with my brother-in-law, and my nephew is into baseball, big baseball fan, big Fernando Tatis fan, and just knows a lot about the game. Reminds me a lot of when I was younger at his age, collecting baseball cards, just really into the game. And they asked me like, what are some of the trade-offs with travel ball? And I said, well, I think with travel ball, a few things to be cautious with when it comes to travel ball. One, that when it all cost mindset is more prevalent. Is it everywhere? No. Is it with every coach? Of course not. Every organization? No. But the win at all cost mindset is a bit more prevalent than your local Little League team league. Again, winning at all cost mindset exists everywhere. You're not going to avoid it unless you pick and select the team you want want to be on carefully. And the other thing, and the thing that I think is more important to consider when signing up your kid for travel ball or a more extensive season, more of a year-round approach, is baseball burnout. There are a few kids, there's a small percentage of kids that will never burn out from baseball their entire life. There's a small percent. Then there's a good percentage of kids that'll love it and play, and then eventually that flame will flicker out. And that could be at the end of high school, could be mid-high school, it could even be in college. But there are also a lot of kids that I've known over the years personally that burned out from baseball, and a part of that was just that travel ball year-round approach. And it wasn't so much the travel ball as much as it was year-round, although the travel ball can be a little bit more intensive, time requirement is a little higher, it's a weekend thing. I do recommend this. You have to sit down as a family, or if it's just you and your kids, and you have to kind of sit down and say, how much do we want to do? What months are we going to take off? You almost have to actually sit down and say, we aren't going to play during these months, or we're going to take at least 3 months off a year or 2 months off a year, or we're not going to play baseball on Sundays. We're just going to do, Saturdays at most, or we're not going to join a team that practices more than twice a week and then a game or two. So there's no more than, say, 3 or 4 days of commitment each week. I think that's the best way to do it. I think the best way is to sit down and go, what don't we want? In fact, my wife and I had a talk about this recently. We have a younger kid, but we said, hey, when she's a little older, and we're already signing her up for it, we're getting involved in things. But I said, we got to be careful, because Monday through Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday practices quickly becomes Monday, Wednesday, Friday practice, which quickly becomes, Monday, Wednesday, Friday plus a lesson on Thursdays. And then it quickly becomes Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sundays. And then it becomes all day Saturday and Sundays. Then it becomes one tournament a month, and then it becomes tournaments all the time. And then it becomes traveling to other states for these tournaments, which now start to take up days on the front end and the back end that have really not much to do with the playing of that sport or activity. You just have to, I think, draw a line in the sand and say, we're going to be firm on this. And every family and every coach and every player, it's going to be a little different. And so I just think that's important to sit down and just keep that in mind, that the winning at all cost mindset is a little more prevalent in travel ball, although it's not exclusive to travel ball by any means. I've seen it actually worse in the local Little League than in travel ball, but it's a little more common on the travel ball circuit from my experience, what I've seen. But to me, that's neither here nor there, because that's kind of a coach by coach, team by team basis, not a travel ball category problem or a Little League category, a Pony League category problem. That's more of a coach by coach, team by team problem. But the baseball burnout is something you have to keep in mind with that travel ball, because it's like a lot of things in life, it kind of sneaks up. Like when I started gaining weight after I stopped playing baseball, stopped playing pro ball, that weight started, I didn't notice it when I was looking in the mirror, but all of a sudden I got on the scale after a year, and I'm like, ooh, that snuck up on me, that 30 pounds, it snuck up on me, right? It just kind of, got me. And so just like adding weight sneaks up on us, just like a lot of things that you see in life, it can just sneak up on you. These things can sneak up on you, and the schedule, the calendar, the event calendar, the practice calendar, the game calendar, it can really start to sneak up on you. I can't tell you how many times I've talked with parents and friends of mine, parents just of kids I've coached, and they'll tell me, it's like, oh man, next thing you know, it was 6 days a week, it was 7 days a week, it was tournaments here, it was tournaments every week. I just highly recommend that you consider setting parameters to say, all right, we're not going to sign up for a team. First off, you don't want to sign up for a team the winning at all costs mindset is prevalent, whether it's travel ball, Little League, or what have you. So that's definitely that can avoid that travel ball issue and that baseball issue in general. And then set the parameters, and that may mean you say no to certain teams. There may be teams, or you form a team that doesn't do all these tournaments all the time, all over. Maybe you form a team that does one tournament a month, or maybe they do 2 travel tournaments a season, and you don't practice in the summer, or you knock it down to 1 practice throughout the summer, 1 team practice, so you can control it a little bit more. The more is more, the more is better isn't always true in baseball. Now, definitely want to get your reps, and you definitely want to get your skill development going with a high level or high amount of quality reps. definitely, especially when it comes to hitting, things like that. But you have to be careful with this. You have to be careful. So I do recommend that to avoid the baseball burnout, you say, all right, we're going to take these months off, or at least the reason I said is you should maybe think about considering a number of months off from each sport, or what's the no-fly zone when it comes to scheduling certain things, because then it gives you a little flexibility. For example, if you just say, all right, we're not going to do any baseball during the summer. Okay, but what if the best opportunity for you or your kid is during the summer, but not in the fall? But in some areas, maybe the best opportunity is in the fall. Well, then maybe you shouldn't take the summer off if that's the best opportunity to play on a team with the kid, your kid's best friend, and you and some other coaches, a good quality team, and they want to play in the summer. Maybe you do that. Maybe you take the fall off, or you take September and October off to go play another sport. So you have to be careful saying, I'm not going to do it during these months. Now, the benefits of travel ball, you get to see different places. You get to see a wider variety of the game being played. You get to travel. You get to see different places. You can travel as a family. Some of the best outings and things as a kid that I did were traveling. We went to Phoenix for a soccer tournament. I still remember that trip, and traveling to different places to play some baseball tournaments. That can be fun. That can be rewarding for sure. So getting out and seeing more of the world, seeing more of your state, more of your area, getting kids out, that can be a big positive, a big plus, a big benefit of travel ball. Also, the quality of baseball may be a little bit better in your area. Maybe the quality of baseball is not that great, but if you travel out, you get a little bit better quality of baseball, maybe a much higher level of quality of baseball. Depends on where you're at. I grew up in Southern California, so you didn't really have to go anywhere to get better quality baseball. Although it would help sometimes to have the better teams, or a team that was a combination of the great players from San Diego and then LA and then Ventura area. They'd come together in the Riverside area and the IE and then Orange County. They'd all come together and play. That really helped to really spice up the competition. So that's something to keep in mind. Travel ball it's fun trips sometimes. The hotels, just getting out with the family and seeing different places, playing different fields can be cool. Seeing different styles of baseball, meeting different types of kids, different kids for your kid to meet different kids from other areas. So there's definitely some positives of travel ball. The cost can be prohibitive for a lot of people, so that's something to keep in mind. I think at the end of the day, the last thing I want to leave you with here is I wouldn't say what are the pros and cons of travel ball versus Little League or local baseball or whatnot. Really, don't look at it so much like that. Just say what's important, what is important to our family, our kid, or myself as a coach, what's important to us, and then find what fits best. And that may be travel ball, that may be the local only, it may be something completely different. I think it's important that we're not falling into what we say like party baseball, like partisan baseball. Shouldn't be partisan baseball in terms of, all right, travel ball or non-travel ball, or all right, are you a travel ball or are you a local ball person? Like whatever fits best for you. And also there's issues in both categories, so you're not just going to find the best path in one of those categories. And I think that kind of holds true with any time in our world that we try to pick two sides of anything, two categories, and then just say one is all right, one is all wrong. And travel ball and local ball, there's definitely some trade-offs and benefits of both. The baseball burnout's something to keep in mind. I do think that's something we just got to be keeping in mind. Now, for some of your kids, they don't play enough. They need to get out a little bit more. They need to put down the game controller, the video game controller. They need to put down the joystick on their computer, and they need to get out and start playing a little more. Maybe they do need to play some summer ball. All right, speaking of getting out, we're going to get out of this episode right now. Next week, we're going to do a two-part series starting next week. We're going to review some common training equipment that's available in the baseball community. Common training equipment products, things that you can buy, utilize. There's a lot of well-known stuff out there. There's a few things I'm going to give my thoughts on to share out with you to make better decisions if it's a good fit or a better fit or how to best maximize the use of it. That'll start next week. We'll do a two-part series. As I mentioned earlier, Coach Ryan Brucker will be sitting down next week. We have it slated to sit down next Wednesday, I believe. We're going to sit down for a few hours, do a great interview. I'm going to break it into a couple sections, and then we're going to roll that out. So we're going to do a two-part series talking about common baseball training equipment, products that are out there that are available. We're going to try to unpack to see if these are more gimmick than things that will produce the results that you want. Are they worth the cost? Are they worth the price? Or are there other alternatives that you don't even need to go and buy these expensive things? Or maybe it is a really good investment. Sometimes you got to spend money to get the results. Sometimes you do. It's in business, you got to spend money to make money sometimes. So we'll dive into that next week. You're going to get a lot out of it, I promise. Be here next week. We'll do a two-part series starting next week, and we'll follow it up the week after. And then Coach Ryan Brucker's interview, he's going to share some gold with you. He's going to share some just great wisdom with you. I I know he is. I know Ryan. I'm looking forward to this, so he's going to share it out. Maybe we'll even talk about their run. Right now, the College World Series is going on, where the college baseball playoffs, they have the regionals this last weekend, and they have the super regionals this coming weekend, and then they got the World Series after that. He can tell you about this incredible story about his college making a run to the College World Series and how it all started. It's a pretty cool story, so he's going to share that with you, I'm sure. And until then, until next week, take care of your health, take care of your family and your close friends. Take this information, go out there, start testing it out, use it, go out there with more confidence now, knowing and having a much better, clearer understanding of what it takes to be a great coach. And until next week, adios.
This has been the 80-20 Baseball Masterclass. Take it to the field.